What's poppin'? Ready to hear the unfiltered truth? Then don't miss Taboo Talk with DJ Ulrich, the podcast where no topic is off limits. From comedy to true crime, beauty to sports, and everything in between, we say what others won't. Stream it live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. only on YouTube and Facebook. It's bold. It's real. It's Taboo Talk. Follow now and turn your midweek into a mind-blowing mix of laughs, facts, and fire conversation. Taboo Talk is sponsored by Straight Vibes and distributed by Brighton's Guyana.
Hey guys, welcome now to another episode of Taboo Talk. My name is DJ Ulrich. Just want to encourage you guys to go over there at YouTube. We've just created a new YouTube page. So go over to YouTube, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell. So when we upload a new episode, you will be notified. Also, go over there to Facebook, run up the likes, just so that we can be motivated to keep these contents coming to you. Today, our podcast has been sponsored by no other than Straight Vibes. And Straight Vibes is distributed by Brighton's Guyana. Today, we're beating the Unstoppable. And the Unstoppable goes great with ginger ale or Coke. All right? So today, I have a very special guest. Very iconic person. I think the entire Guyana know him. And it is actually a privilege right now to have him here on Taboo Talk. No other than Stan Gouveia. Mr. Stan Gouveia, how are you doing?
Doing good, man.
Good, great.
And thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. There's so many stories. There's stories from broadcasting. There's stories from the first concept events and these things. Stan, tell me something. Your name is a household name in the broadcasting industry. Let me just ask my question. If not for broadcasting industry, what would have you been doing today?
Law.
Right, walk us through. Gotta be something.
Well, no. It's so growing up, the gift that Gab got further developed as a child. Evidently going to church, and one of the things that happened at church is that you were engaged in things like they call sword drill, where it was competitive, which meant that you had to be able to read. And do it very quickly too. So sword drill is where you would have to hold the Bible up, and the moderator would call out a scripture verse that you have to know. When they say charge, take down the Bible and find it, and the first person to do that stands up and starts to read, right? And you put your hand where you found that, just to verify that it is indeed that you found it, and you didn't just learn it from heart.
Wow.
So that led to, obviously, by the time I was in high school, being part of the debating teams and being involved in elocution. I was an avid reader, so being able to then translate that into speech and doing a lot of arguments, it felt just natural, Obviously, some of the people who do a lot of arguments are lawyers that I wanted to do that. So even up to when I wrote CXC, I had the intention of, I just worked for a year and then off to university and do law. But then that changed.
So you had a chance to complete law? Or?
Well, I never did it.
You never did it? Okay, no. I'm sorry. But so a lawyer, wow. So that would make perfect sense, because you mentioned something about the Bible, and listen. I'm not aware of that. Right. So I'm learning as well here, right? I'm learning as well.
Sure, yeah.
Great. And tell us about the broadcasting industry, because you have a unique voice. Like if you were on the radio station, persons will know, hey, who's that? That is Stan Gouveia. I mean, persons wouldn't make a mistake about it, because your voice is unique. Did you train your voice like that, or it just is something that because you're constantly doing it, it just stick with you?
I think it's a combination of both. In the time, so like I did tell you, my intention was to do law, maybe work for a year as a break from studying, and then off to university. And what happened is that during that time, whilst we were waiting for our CXC results, there was an advertisement that I saw from a then best friend who passed away, heard it, and then he was like, if you apply, I think you'd get through, and they were calling for radio announcers. And I remember there was 2 parts of it. If you think you have X amount of CXC subjects, if you think you have a good voice, then we're looking for you.
Yeah.
Mind you, I didn't think that I had a good voice. In my 4th form years at high school, I was kicked out of the choir because the choir mistress at that time felt that I think voices were cracking or breaking, and it was not suitable for the choir and what she wanted. And I think I took that to me, well, you don't have a good voice. So when my friend was saying, why don't you apply? You'd probably get through. I didn't think that it was going to make sense. And we had a bet over, because he said to me, I bet you a case of beer if you apply, you'd get through. And I right away doubled it. Long story short, I had to buy 2 cases of beer for him, and he actually drank all out and didn't give me any. Right? Because did the application, apparently it met the qualifications, then I was called for an audition. So I did the audition, and I figured, well, that was it. I wasn't going to hear back from them. But then they called. And so that's when my journey started. But all along, I just thought that maybe I'm just going to be there for a year, but not realizing that the training at that time, it was known as the Guyana Broadcasting Corporation, GBC, which eventually merged some years later in 2005 with GTV to become NCN.
Oh.
So when I got in, you had to now go through training. And that training was equivalent to a 4-year degree.
Wow.
So you had to do voice practices and training, enunciation, pronunciation, diction. And they had some really, really, really good people from both locally and international, from the BBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, from the Caribbean, CBC, and so on, who actually invested in that kind of training, which also included things like how to actually set up a radio station, how to be able to fix your antennas.
And all this was then?
All this was then. Wow. So you went through that, and not until any head of department for the various departments that you were placed in give you a passing grade that you could now move from that department onto the next step of your journey. And then at the end of it, you are now let loose on the radio. So, like I said, I initially thought I was just going to be there for a year, but then I'm not one who likes to start something and then end. So I didn't quit. I stuck with it. And this is where I am today.
And speaking about where you're at today, 2 things before I get into that. You talk about the things that you had to go through before being a broadcaster on the radio, before announcing on the radio. I didn't know that it was all that perfection. You had to go through this training. You have to go through. Wow. I have a question, but we're gonna come to that in a few. You also celebrated 33 years in the broadcasting industry. How was that? How was that feelings for you?
Funny enough, it's like your age. You don't feel a day older when you reach that milestone, right? I think, in all honesty, looking back, it's definitely been a rich experience. Rich in terms of the people you've met, the things that you were able to do, and the kind of insights that you've been able to have, all while growing. And I think, from the very embryonic aspect of things in the broadcast industry, it has really set the pace for everything else that I've gone through. Yeah. We've had crises in the system, for example. I think we all are aware that it was not the best paying job that one did. So evidently, people did it out of love. And for me, that love developed as you recognized every time you turn on the microphone and you speak to those who are listening that you're not seeing. The fact that you get reaction, those are not the days For example, when I started, were the days where you had instantaneous reaction, except someone had the luxury of a telephone that they could pick up and call to the studio. Most times persons would write in, and sometimes, by the time you get those letters, 2 weeks after a particular program.
Yeah.
But to see them discussing that or writing to compliment about that or saying what they really liked about it, those were, moments of joy, to know that people would actually come to the radio station to meet you just to take out a picture, because they liked what you were doing.
Yeah.
Those were little nuggets that really were rewarding for me.
That's really nice. And you mentioned something that was like the Stone Ages, writing to a radio station, say, tell Stan Gouveia hi, and we love him, and we continue doing the good work. I mean, looking back from.
But it was a good thing. It was a good thing because one of the things I will admit, I've never come across any letter in those days that was not grammatically correct. And I'm talking about from children, sometimes as young as 6 years old, used to write to us at radio. Not just me, but other programs and hosts. And this is one of the things that I always do recall. You never had an issue with spelling, punctuation, and diction. Unlike what we see passes on our social media apps and platforms these days. Sometimes you have to wrench up and try to figure out what were they trying to say. Right? So I think that was an advantageous stage at that time too.
And coming from those, I'm going to call it Stone Ages. Coming from those Stone Ages, right?
Throwing punches early, right?
Because listen, like even my viewers, I know in their mind, 33 years of broadcasting, where there were hardly telephones, pen and paper. Like, can you vision coming from then to now? How did you survive? And what are some of the challenges that you faced back then? Like, what are some of the challenges? Can you remember, sometimes your toughest days and these things?
Well, I think the toughest times or days back then would have been the incessant blackouts that we would have had, which obviously meant that if you're in a studio, your program is cut, and you have to either wait for the generator to come on, or sometimes we had blackout for so long, sometimes the generator had to be cut off.
Yeah.
Because it was so long. But for me, they were all fun because you're young, you're excited and exuberant about what you're doing. And I was one of the persons who, and I hope if they're watching, they don't feel anyway, but I was one of the persons who sometimes sit down, you like what you're doing so much that you wanted to be on air all along. The standard around the world is that a broadcast is not supposed to be on air continuously for more than 4 hours. Wow. So a shift was considered 4 hours. However, there would be circumstances where you're not relieved. That person called in sick or something, and you would have to continue. So sometimes you're just sitting at home and waiting and hoping you get a call that somebody reported sick, so you can go to work. Because you liked what you were doing. And it wasn't just about the money. And I think at that time it was trying to be better at your craft and, just going from strength to strength. Because for me also, there were others in broadcasting that you looked up to and you aspired to be. They were known as the Bastions. The Roger Moores, we're talking about Margaret Lawrence, Phyllis Jackson. Those are some of the names. If any of you know Pancho Carew and so on. So it's like you wanted to either be like them, the Richard Deans and so on.
But in coming up in that era, you had a chance of meeting some of these guys, right? And I mean, you were young in that.
They were the people who trained.
Space.
They were the people who trained me, and I had to work. They were my superiors.
But at that point, have you ever felt like, because when you're young and you're excited, you're fresh for these things. It's like you feel like you puff your chest.
Exactly.
So you ever had a moment with them that you probably had a little clash or anything like?
Well, there's also evidently there were standards and there were ways of how to do things, even on radio. So one of the things that we were always told is that the phones in the studio are not for personal use. And I had a manager at that time, no name will be called, but for some strange reason, every time she passes the studio, I'm on the phone. But for me, I'm not on the phone, maybe having a personal call. So when I actually went on air, I started a program called, and this was at the directive of the then general manager, Fazal Aziz, and Margaret Lawrence, who was the program manager. Because I challenged them and I said, radio is boring. It has nothing for young people.
Yeah.
So they said, well, if you think so, why don't you come up with a concept? Which I worked on. And that became known as the Onward Upward Show, which catered for persons from the ages of as young as 3 all the way up until 21. So it had different segments. It started from 4 in the afternoons and ended at 7:30. By 7:30, what we were doing is we had instructors from university who were doing CXC maths and English. So the older ones could actually benefit from that. In between, you had the story time, but the most popular aspect of it was what was called the Junior Citizens Corner, where we allowed children to call in and sing a song, just say what is on their mind, and have a conversation. And that's how I got the nickname at that time of Uncle Stan, because it's children and the courtesy, good afternoon, Uncle Stan, and they want to sing a song, they want to recite a poem, they want to tell you what happened in school today. So even, and it was just a half-hour segment. So even when that is done and you go on to the other program, the phone would still be ringing. Thinking it not rude to ignore the phone, you'd pick up an answer. Sometimes the children don't even realize that they're not on air. They would just start singing. So you're sitting there listening. And so the manager would pass and say, you know, why are you on the government's phone? That is not your personal phone. And I remember someone there, she said, Gouveia, I'd like you to understand that the G in GBC is not Gouveia. It is the Guyana Broadcasting Corporation. But it became awesomely good afterwards.
Because the reason why I asked, because you will in any industry where there is giants, I should say, and you're now a part of that, you know, sometimes they might have little clashes happening every now and then.
Yes,
but it's not intentionally. It's just, you know, it's just out of me wanting this more, you know. And you mentioned something back then. A lot of children used to listen to the radio. I myself was a fan of radio then, and still now is. I could remember when I now had the love for radio. I used to actually, I can't remember which station I used to listen you on, but I used to actually imitate you. They were you.
Let me hear it. Let me hear it.
Okay, it used to be like, hey, checking in now. It's your boy Stan Gouveia. You know, and that's what I said. You have that unique voice and that pitch. Like anybody would know it's Stan. Anybody, even when you're 9 to 4, in Saturdays, like that voice is a voice to wake you up out of bed. You know, that voice is a voice to wake you up. Like, you know, and there were even other persons that I used to listen to. They were back then. There was Sigobin. They were Morano. You know, these are persons from, and there were this guy here. He used to come on the radio to talk stories. Uncle Jerry. I can't remember his name. But most of these guys, if I hear their voice or kind of put some thought in that, I can get the name. But
Alan Fenty, you had
that's the name. Alan Fenty, that's the name. So these are persons who I listen to and I know what to say, especially in the morning when there's morning program. And that's what I said. I don't think children listen to radio as much as back then now.
correct,
right? Because there were a lot of calling competitions, like singing, poem, question and answer, and these things. I mean, in your broadcasting industry, I mean, like now, do you think that we should bring back those things for children? Like, because there's not a lot of radio stations or persons in the broadcast industry. I feel, to me, children are ignored in the broadcast industry. Do you share the same view?
Not really. For example, there's what is known as EduFM, which caters its content and programming is specifically for children. But it's more educational, more, and as the name suggests, edutainment. So it has some entertainment for them. So there's that. But you have mainstream radio stations. And I think what some persons have to understand, because even at the radio station that I do the morning program at, there oftentimes people call and challenge why you're not playing a certain type of music and you're only playing a certain type of music. And they don't understand the dynamics when it comes to radio stations. So each radio station applies for a license, would explain what is the desire of that radio station. And when they have the approval granted, they have to stick to that.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, 94.1, I am aware, is a station that said basically they're playing now music for the now generation.
Yeah.
Hence the booming with part of its name.
Yeah.
So, what they consider and what they will have in their repertoire is basically the now generation and the kind of music that the people of now are interested in. But there are those who, because it's that popular, are saying, well, you should play this kind of music. And that comes out of, that is causing them to step away from what they are mandated to do. For example, you may have a Christian radio station. I'm sure no one is going to call them and say, well, why are you only playing Christian music?
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same. And you've got other radio stations that decided that their music is going to be of the 90s. You have others who decided their music is going to be Hindi and chutney.
Especially Bollywood.
Or filming and so on.
Yeah.
You can't then decide that they should change, because it means there's a whole change of their licensing. So you've got that. But I know many stations, they try to have program, even if it's just for half an hour, that has some sort of content that could, be able to appeal to a wide cross section, which includes children.
And I know you mentioned about 9 to 4. You mentioned about 9 to 4.1 there. How did your journey started with 9 to 4? Here I want to tell me too. Tell me about them DJ guys when they now start doing the thing.
We've always had DJs in radio. Just that before them being known as DJs per se, they were known as operators.
Operators, yeah.
The DJ originally was, and that is the original name of it, is the person who actually wrote on the music. So that is the person who did the announcing as well as did the playing for themselves. So when 98.1 first opened, that is how it was geared. So I was the first person to open 98.1, the first FM that we had in the country, along with Rocky Carew, Elvis Van Slightman, and Morano Isaacs, Big Brother Chappelle. And so that is what we did. However, moving on to 94.1, when they opened, just to back up a little bit. So what happened is that, yes, the operator, as we would call him, would get mentions about who is actually playing the music by the announcer. But they were not that much in the limelight or seen. It was the announcer
who was in the
limelight. Hits and Jams decided that they wanted to reverse that and have the focus. Since it's mostly music, the focus should be now on that person who's playing the music. Hence the DJs come in. So what they were looking for, and they were able to get, was DJs who understood the different repertoires of music and had a good juggling ability about them. And then they tried to pair those DJs with the presenters, as we were now called, to see if they could work that vibe and bring that kind of gelling ability to the program that they're doing. And that's what happened. That started about 13, 14 years ago when they started up.
Nice. Now we're going to get into more of this. I mean, there's so much more that I want to touch on. There's so much questions that I have to ask. I have to put everything in a nutshell. But before we do so, we're going to just go take a straight vibes break. We'll be back. Don't even move a muscle. Do remember, guys, you're beating me Unstoppable. Unstoppable goes good with ginger ale or Coke. For sure. Grab yourself a bottle to enjoy it. Shout out to all my Unstoppable people out there. Do remember, subscribe, like, share.
Somebody else get ice. What's poppin'? Ready to hear the unfiltered truth? Then don't miss Taboo Talk with DJ Ulrich, the podcast where no topic is off limits. From comedy to true crime, beauty to sports, and everything in between, we say what others won't. Stream it live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. only on YouTube and Facebook. It's bold. It's real. It's Taboo Talk. Follow now and turn your midweek into a mind-blowing mix of laughs, facts, and fire conversation. Taboo Talk is sponsored by Straight Vibes and distributed by Bryden's Guyana.
Ooh, make it wrong. This a rum na no boring. It make ugly girl look like pretty darling. Straight vibes till I'm on it. Come for your uncle, somebody should have want it. When you want to feel real vibes. When you want to feel straight vibes. Somebody else get ice. Make TJ not nice. Proof of the bad man choice. And I'm strong with the gal them like. Not Smirnoff ice. Them a lick higher, make gal pussy tight. Them a lick higher, make it thugs them hype. Now we no pop pill, we pop back all night. Oh, tell everybody we're ready for starting. We're charging the shortest. We are sell down the oh, make it wrong. Available nationwide at all leading supermarkets, bars, and restaurants. Distributed by Bryden's Guyana, whether on the rocks or in a cocktail. Straight vibes rum can be enjoyed by anyone over 18, that is. 4 flavors, 4 moods, 4 legendary hits in a bottle. Unstoppable, electric, ramping sharp, and fever. This is Vibes Cartel. Big up Guyana and Bryden's Guyana. A one Guyana. Don't. Oh, I'm out. Somebody else get ice.
Hey guys, welcome back. Definitely subscribe, like, share. I can't keep stressing. We've just created a new YouTube page, and just run over there at Taboo Talk, GY, and just run up the likes. Just like run it up, share, subscribe. And for those persons who just joined us, I am here with the iconic Stan Gouveia. Stan, we were having a discussion earlier about the broadcasting industry and how much it's evolved and changed. I know you work with 9 to 4. You're currently employed with them, I say.
I host the morning show.
Correct. And there is this program that you did, Hot Seat. How was the Hot Seat for you? And how did you came about with Hot Seat?
You ever watched or listened to it?
Of course.
What are your thoughts on it?
My thought of Hot Seat is that it's not that hot. Hear why it's not that hot. Mm-hmm. There are some questions on radio you could ask, right? But you wouldn't get the full essence out of it. So you got to know how to come around it. But hear what I like about it. I like, for example, your last interview that you did was with our VP, right? And if persons know our VP, I think personally, is not a person you can go wrong with certain questions. He's very quick. I actually thought he was an athlete in school, so he's very quick when it comes to those questions. But I like that seat. You even did our farmer, Mr. Granger as well. I looked at it, Stan.
Oh, so you looked at 2 of them.
I looked at it. Right.
So basically, just to say, Hot Seat started during the time I was hosting the Midday Mix. There was evidently a need, being involved in media, I recognized that persons had lots of questions, lots of issues that they needed addressed. And in some cases, it was very hard to actually get those people to address it, whether by giving a press conference or something. So I took it on my own. It started initially as just being able to invite somebody. Let's just say people are talking about the issue of waste or refuse not being picked up on time, reach out to either the mayor or the town clerk to ask him to come in and address that. And from that, it expanded into the hot seat because it started to generate a lot of attention. Persons recognized that for issues that were affecting them, this is a place to turn to be able to get the resource people to answer or, to be able to defend what it is that they're doing. And as such, it was pertinent to ensure that it wasn't just a situation where you just allowed people to sugarcoat.
No.
So I always made sure I'm aware of all the facts of a particular issue that I'm going to be discussing with someone. And obviously, if it is that they come and they want to, as we say, bamboozle, you're able to correct them or ups them. And say, whilst you're saying this is so. So it was found as putting them on the spot or hot because in some cases they were squirming and so on. And we did it for a whole gamut of things from business leaders, from the banking industry and the private sector, government ministers, opposition members, and so on, who would have to come on and be able to speak to the people. And what made it even more interesting is that persons were given an opportunity to even field questions to them through me, because they could send me messages directly as they are listening to the persons on air and say, well, can you ask them this question? And obviously, we had lots of sensible questions coming through, so you ask them it. None of the guests were ever given any questions beforehand.
That was my next question, because I know
none were given questions before. Not even the president, not even the then opposition leader. They never knew what they were coming into.
Because I know persons like ask, what are you gonna ask me? Or send me a list of what you're gonna ask me. So it was just you there doing your research, asking questions, and having the public to.
They were given a broad understanding of what we were going to deal with, as in case in point the way you would have done with this interview. Well, we're going to be discussing X, Y, Z, but in terms of the questions, they never knew it. And the thing about it too is that most of the questions were formulated out of some of the things that they said whilst being there. Right? That's why it was important to be able to listen to them, knowing your information, and being able to then counter or be able to come back with something from what they said.
You should have studied a lot for real.
Who knows? I might still do it.
No, you still have time. You know what I mean? You still have time. You know, and that's it is no more.
Well, for me, I think by the time 2020 rolled around, and after I'd interviewed the then opposition leader, who is now the vice president, and the former president, Mr. Granger, and having interviewed so many persons, both locally and internationally, I felt it was time to move on and let others pick up that mantle and run with it. And for me, it was going to be a kind of like a regurgitation of what I've done already and what I've achieved, to be able to go back and do that. And to be able to let others, take that mantle up.
But is there is there ever a time that you look back and say, I should have interviewed this person, or were there any person that you missed that you should have said, I should have given this person an interview?
I don't think there's any person that I missed. But there are persons that you probably would have wanted to interview again, because how things are happening and there's a fluidity. Sometimes you need to, bring them back and quiz them on some of the things that they would have said then, as opposed to their posture now. And
when you mentioned that, you've reached the peak of it, and I think you've achieved whatever you wanted to achieve from the outset.
Yes, not to be cocky, but I think anybody who is into this would like to know that they have under their belt, that they have the widest repertoire of some of the most influential people that they have interviewed in their country.
Nice.
And I've done that.
For sure. Congrats, Dan. Congratulations on that. Let's get down to the
nitty
of things. Stan, in the entertainment industry, when you now started, I heard stories that Stan Gouveia was the first person to bring the lollipop party. What was that? What was that about? Take us back to that journey. Like, what was that about?
So it was all about, and as you see right now, everything is about a concept. I think what had happened is that you keep hearing about parties, and at one time it was, for me, just like a repeat of what we saw happening overseas. And we just bring the exact same thing here without any creativity. And I recognize that people were kind of getting bored and tired of that. It's the same kind of thing. So all the parties got the same names from Jamaica or the names from Trinidad or what stuff. Why can't we just do something, of our own? And so then before the lollipop party, the first party I did was a color party, because I'm like, and everybody, I guess, would usually dress in white, but they want to wear to go to the party. But it never really had a significance, or it was never the focus or feature. So I came up with the idea of having a color party. And so when we come up with a color party, we decided how to code it. Each color that you wear represented a different meaning. And we had 11 colors, I can't remember all right now, that we came up with. And we put some funny connotations to it. And believe you me, people paid attention to that. I think, like, for example, pink was signified you were looking, something like that. And it was the first time people saw so many men wear pink. And given the fact that pink, people were saying, no, you don't wear pink.
And you were telling DeAndre green was horny.
Yeah. And so you had persons who came out to represent their color. And it was like a really, really, really mad party at Blue Guyana. And thereafter, challenged to obviously have another party. And I just thought, I think we were chilling somewhere in the sea, myself and friends. And this girl, Narissa Pearson, she was sucking a lollipop. And one of the songs is playing, Licking Like a Lollipop. And that's where the idea birthed. And we're like, we're going to do this, right?
Lollipop party. Wow.
And what we're going to do is share out lollipops when people come into the party. So everybody had lollipops. And that was the theme song for the party. You're going to lick like a lollipops.
That was nice. And you also did a rock party as well.
Yeah, well, I think for me growing up, I always liked soft rock and as well as heavy metal. And you never really found much. It was one-off. There are a couple of good guys who had some rock bands, but they were not always well attended because we had a small following at that time for it. But I realized that it had potential, especially if it was mixed with the soft rock, which is what more persons kind of knew and they would embrace as opposed to the hard rock or heavy metal. And that fusion was able to actually kick. Because people came out because they're like, and then they're there now, and then they hear the heavy metal, but now just hearing it, they're seeing the bands actually performing it, and how those are actually getting into it, and they themselves even start vibing. So that was a really good thing.
But they were so you had the rock party, you had the color party, and you had the lollipop party. 3 parties you had, and
I had other parties.
Good. Let's just stick on the 3, right? But I can imagine the impact back then that these events had. If, like, in today's society, like right now, if you had a chance to bring back one of these parties, which one would you like focus on bringing back?
Well, the one that we didn't mention, pajama party.
Pajama party right now, you would bring back right now.
Yeah, I definitely like to see the kinds of pajamas or lingerie that people would wear to come out to a party like that. We had one at Palm Court. I remember one of the funny things, somebody decided, as the music was going, they decided to rock out and the lingerie, which is a pajama pants. I had a split straight down the middle.
And they just continued partying
They continued partying. They didn't care.
Mad.
It was crazy.
But I think I don't know, but I think you should bring back a party those times. Like
lollipop? You think people are up to sucking?
Well,
Just checking.
no, well, listen, I just say one. But I would have choose a laundry party. I would have choose.
It probably could go in sync and combine the two. Who knows? Pajama lollipop party.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Just giving them an idea. If it is that you plan to do it, you make sure you got to involve me, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, use the franchise, so no. So by rights, by rights.
Yeah, and, other things would have been performances. One of the things you might not have known, and along that time, what I had gotten involved in was, like I said, because you work in radio, you tend to like music.
Yeah.
And I like in local music too. And it was brought to my attention around 1999 that there were a group of boys who could sing. And met them. They all attended St. Joseph's and North Georgetown School. And that group there were 7 boys, known as 7. And after we met and we talked, I got into managing them. And then they had a very popular tune called Promises, which is the breakout for Adrian Dutchin. He was in that group, and we kind of did things differently. Put out a whole video that cost a lot of money to do at that time. And they got the kind of attention which was similar to when we would have seen videos of back in the days, like Backstreet Boys, how people go crazy for them. I remember after we did the launch of that video, and they went to school the next day, and the guys were saying to me afterwards, they were shocked because it was assembly and they got a standing ovation.
Yeah, popularity spiked.
And yeah, that kind of thing. And so that was a really good thing and a good experience. And then there were other artists who came out and, joined the whole thing. And so we were having a good thing happening around that time. But I would always say music business is a business. You've got to learn. Kind of the same way that I took to learn broadcasting. You've got to learn the business aspect of music if you definitely want to be successful.
And since we're on this topic, let me just ask you something real quick. Local music. Do you think that Guyanese artists are lacking because you mentioned business is business. Do you think that Guyanese artists are lacking somewhere that they're not that we ain't cracked the code as yet? I mean, some of us are doing so good, but
I think it's the business part of it that we haven't had packed down really as yet. We've got awesome and amazing talent here.
Very
damn good talent. The business aspect of it. And I remember saying to an artist, one time we had a conversation, I said, man, you look at, let's say, because they were the usual runners, y'all play Rihanna's music all the time. They don't pay you. You play Beyonce music and all these foreign people's music. So have you taken a look at their social media platforms?
Yeah.
Right? It's all about what they do, they craft their business, and they publish and they post in such a way that it's always a tease. So by the time they do launch something, everyone is ready to eat it.
Traffic is there to go. Yeah.
And so now look at what you, and this is that particular person I was talking, look at what your social page is. Somebody says they don't like you, you take to your page to cuss them out.
Yeah.
Now that person could very well, as much as they say they don't like you, they could very well be vibing to your music.
Yeah.
But you cuss them out now on your social page. You're losing a supporter.
Yeah, I can't from there.
Right? Why is it on your page you're talking about everything else except what it is that you do and you want people to recognize you for? Right? So even that is a little aspect of the business. And I find sometimes there's some who figure that their job is done when they record and they release that song or songs.
That's finished there.
Their job is done. It's now on you and everyone else to make that song big.
Yeah.
But we all know that that is far from the truth.
Yeah.
You've got to work, you've got to promote, you've got to push yourself. And it's in the music industry, locally, internationally, nothing is given to you on a platter.
Yeah.
You've got to work for it, you've got to fight for it. As a matter of fact, there's so many artists who are popping up every day. So many people with good voices, right? there's always going to be competition. So you can't just sit down and lie low and expect,
This to happen.
this to happen and that to happen. You've got to make it happen for yourself.
Because the reason why I asked, I mean, coming from 33 years in the broadcast industry, you would have passed through a lot of, you would have worked or even shake hands with a lot of local artists. I can say there's a lot of artists from then to now that is still struggling, still stifling. But that's the reason why I asked, because hearing it from you, it is, it is something to look at this interview and say, for truth, like we should steer this in this direction, because like you can give a handful of artists who understand or who crack the code that, hey, this is business and this is how it should be and this is how it should go. While there are some of them,
and I could tell you about one that you might doubt me, but I can tell you about one that I look at and I admire, Charming Black One. And why? I've known Charming for all my years in radio.
Is it Charming or Charming?
Charming Black One.
Was it?
It's CHARMAINE.
Oh.
Charming.
See? So it's a Charming Black Man. It's a Charming Black
She also loves that.
Yeah.
But what I was looking at is, I remember, they would record songs and they would walk the streets, beat the streets to get it out there. They'd go to the radio station. It was only that radio station we had at that time. That's she and her husband, Buddy House. They'd bring it and they'd say, man, please play it for us. And so on. And I've heard stories and I've experienced it. Sometimes they end up getting a gig or two somewhere. And then they come back to the radio station and say, thank you for playing this for us. We were able to get this, look this. Right? And they were consistent about that. Then they got a chance to be on a cruise ship and they went out and they continued to do their stuff. And they're selling the CDs. They went to Guam and they promoted their stuff. And funny enough, as many persons were, snickering at the quality of what they put out. They had one of those hits, song, a very good reggae song that she had done called Raise Your Hands to Jah, that reached the number 1 on Guam's music charts. Now, lots of persons were laughing like, where is Guam? They don't even know where Guam is.
Yeah.
But one of the things it started to do is to etch up copyrights for her, right? And royalties, which they were able to earn. And I looked at during the pandemic in 2020, when everybody was home, nothing was happening. Charmin decided to do a concert.
And I remember that concert. Right. It was live.
For 1 hour, she sang. Lots of people tuned in. Lots of people had fun at it or what's not. But you know what happened? And Charmin don't cuss me for this, but she made over $1 million in 1 hour. Over $1 million. She had a tipping jar there. And there were so many, and I figure the time was right because people wanted entertainment. Yeah, so whether they found it funny or not,
we were still running up Charmin views.
Yeah, and not just that, they were tipping. And from that, the tipping jar, she made a lot of money. I saw other artists looked at us like, so, well, I could do that. They tried it. Some of them didn't even make 10,000, right? And that's what I'm looking at, the consistency of this woman, and not just her consistency in terms of putting out music, but how she will with names. Like, for example, if she knows you, she's not going to stop. This is my song. Please play my song. Even if it is that you play it out of pity, she's getting you to do that. And for her, I think maybe her mantra is that she's never too proud to beg. Right? We've got lots of people who tell themselves they're not going to do that. As long as they put it out, you're supposed to find it. I find that sometimes people would send their music to you via a Facebook Messenger.
It happens a lot.
Tell you to play it.
It happens a lot.
Where's the actual MP3?
Yeah. It happens a lot.
Where is the details about the song that we could, do it? So it's all about that.
Yeah, it happens a lot. And I've never, when it comes to Charmin, I just want to say this, like, I don't understand Charmin's style of music. Sad to say, I don't understand Charmin's style of music. However, her consistency in music, I admire that. So even
that's what I'm talking about.
Good,
that's what I'm talking about.
So even if I don't
whether you like it or not, she's got a consistency and a stick-to-itiveness.
Definitely.
Right? And she's got that kind of push. And that's what I'm talking about. And maybe the part of the business, because the truth be told, I'm sure Charmaine be collecting some good royalties and some not quite.
Gotta be.
Right?
I mean, got
She's
to
been
be.
doing what it needs to be done to get her songs on the necessary royalty list and copyright list and so on, sure that it's being played where it's gonna pay her.
Yeah, gotta be. Big up to Charmaine. Big up. Stan, there's a lot of current issue that is happening. Recently we had a bombing of recently. I know it actually shook the nation. I mean, what would be your views on that? Being a concerned Guyanese citizen.
It's a wake-up call for all of us, especially us as citizens. I think we have always been known as the most hospitable people. I would say we are very welcoming of foreigners.
Yeah.
And sometimes it allows us to let our guards down and not pay attention to what really matters. And in a situation like this, I think it's been a situation of taking things for granted. And we just let the ball drop. It's a wake-up call, and not just for our security forces, but it's a wake-up call for all Guyanese, because many, we are aware, have been complicit in, harboring or even hiding persons. We do it with our own locals and we do it with foreigners. If you do recall, this is not the first incident we have had happen. We had the incident with the police station and the GPL substation. And when police did their investigation, there were aiders and bettors who were Guyanese, who linked with these people and assisted them in doing what they were doing. As we're seeing currently from what the crime chief would have made public, is that Guyanese are involved in those 9 that have been arrested so far, right? So it's again, I find sometimes what you call it disloyalty to country, and I guess a selfish interest.
Yeah, too far-minded.
For many persons. I go beyond even the far-minded. It's selfish interest because as you're aware, there are lots of people who, as long as the price is right, they're going to do
anything.
They forget where their loyalties lie. So it's a situation like that. We got to reprogram our thinking and our mentality as it relates to protecting our country.
Yeah, and I want to say condolences goes out to the family of the 6-year-old girl who lost her life. Apart from that, Stan, I know you worked with the Guyana Police Force as their public relations person. I don't know what role you played, but correct me if I'm wrong, right? What are some pressing issues? Or let's just say like 2 or a few. What are some of the pressing issues that you're still trying to get out there to the public? That is still there, that you're trying to get to them, but it's something that keeps reoccurring all the time.
Well, to give you some clarity, the public relations officer, my appointment, we have set up what is known as Radio Evaluary. And the main focus and thrust of that is to be able to educate the public about many of the issues that they would encounter with law enforcement, as well as to show part of the strategies of the police, what they're doing in terms of the community relations that they engage in, whether it is the lectures at schools, the walkabouts and educating people about what to do if a crime occurs and that kind of thing. And as such, one of the things we find major issue relates to traffic, and what persons would do to flout, the law. One of the major things that everyone seems to have an issue with is tint. Everyone wants a tint, and you'd probably even hear, if it is that you don't have tint on your vehicle.
Selling ball.
We do with this glass case.
Selling ball.
That kind of thing. And One of the things that we're finding is that the more press for this vehicle to look good, seems as if more danger to other road users, pedestrians and other vehicle owners. Because what happens is that, so they've tinted up the windows, and then they decide that the sun too hot, so they're going to tint up the windscreen. And you can probably see through that during the day, but in heavy rains, it's difficult for you. And at night, it's difficult. So what they have to now do is put on the high beam, which means that there's no consideration for the driver coming in the opposite direction.
For sure.
Right? Because you got a heavy tint there, so you got to put on a high beam to see what would normally not need a high beam. And this is concerning, I know, for police, and they've been speaking out about it in various stops, whether talking to truck drivers, talking to minibus owners, hire car drivers, or just regular stop and have conversations with people about it. And many I've even heard some stop, they were instructed to take off the tint and then proceed, and then they proceed and go straight to another tint shop and put it on back. Right? And I'm sure we do recall, and it's funny because some people say, well, that can't happen to me until it happens to them. I do recall a couple of years, a young man, sadly, who was a policeman, who was in a vehicle that is very heavily tinted. And he was going down the Mucker Road, where there were not much lights on that road either. And he ran straight on the container
Low
truck,
bed,
low bed that was there, and died.
I remember the story.
Right? And we've had several other incidents of that sort. And the whole mixing of alcohol and then driving, we've been trying to get that into people's minds. Have a designated driver. If it is that you know you're going out to party, you can't stop anyone from partying.
For sure. Even though right now, I'm cutting, even though I beat me straight vibes, I mean, yeah, Jersey designated drivers, same way, you know what I mean?
And that's very good.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have a designated driver if it is that you know, or know your limit. Try not to pass that, and also give yourself enough time to get that out of your system before you decide to go behind the wheel. Because the two simply don't mix. We've been trying to get that message over to people over and over again. It's a work that the police is continuing to do. And it's sad every time you have to see those kind of accidents happen.
Over and over. You know, I was an express issue before I wrap up too. The white lights, the traffic hit. I can't see that thing any day, you know.
So you can imagine what's at night, right?
No, the white lights, right?
The white lights. So, but you can imagine what it does to you at night.
Correct. Definitely. I know you guys are working hard to clamp down on that too.
And again, this is just, I think personal safety is put on the back burner for good looks and style. That is the primary focus of most persons who do that. They want this car to be the shiniest car in their street.
Yeah.
They want this car to be the best car. It must be the one that everybody's talking about. Watch that. Yeah. And so their personal safety and others, because in many cases too, sometimes when there's an accident, it's not them alone. Yeah. It's others who are either in the vehicle or another road user that is affected terribly. So it is something definitely, you know, we've been having campaigns ever so often about it. And in some cases, they even go back to it. So I know one of the things that is going to be happening is you've heard in other parts of the press, especially government, talking about it, with more updated, the cameras around the country for the smart city and smart country. A lot of these issues will be detected by the machines, and that now pins directly to a person's license, where they're going to look and start taking out points all the way up to then revoking license.
Yeah, I know it was coming to that.
Right. So it is, if it is that you can't get persons to, do things voluntary, then you have to find other methods.
Yeah, sure. Stan, what is next, Stan Gouveia?
What is next? Continue doing what I'm doing. I'm studying right now.
Wow.
So
nice.
After that, I might, who knows, like I said at the start, I probably might even finally do some law. Since, funny enough, a lot of the work that I've done seems to be still leading somewhere along that line. So I might as well just go qualify in it. But outside of that, it's more about, given where we are, I think as I come out of this at some point in time, because I believe in being able to give younger voices and blood the chance to be able to come up and do that. So as I move off from that, most likely it's going to be able to share my expertise with companies, with other radio stations in a consultation field.
Thank you very much for shedding light on that. And whenever you decide to, probably move off from this, if there's application that is open, just let me know.
Well, application is probably open right now, so who knows?
But it was a chat that I expected. I want to thank you so much for being on Taboo Talk. I've learned a lot, and if this interview was to go on and on and on, I'm sure there's so many more stories that we can touch on. But, it was a pleasure having you here.
Because we haven't touched any of the taboo parts as yet.
So. I know that for sure. So, I think we should have a part 2 soon, but, thanks so much for coming through. Guys, iconic Stan Gouveia, here on Taboo Talk. We got to pull the curtains down. Shout out to the camera guy, signaling, Emmanuel. Shout out to my road manager, DeAndre, the entire team. Until next time, guys, do remember, subscribe, share, like. This podcast has been sponsored by Straight Vibes, and we're on some Unstoppable. And I want to encourage you guys to head over there to Brighton's or any supermarket, country or nationwide. Grab yourself some. It goes perfectly with Coke or Ginger Hill. So you suit yourself. Until next time, guys, my name is DJ Alridge. Be safe on the roadway. We love you guys. Bye-bye.
What's poppin'? Ready to hear the unfiltered truth? Then don't miss Taboo Talk with DJ Ulrich, the podcast where no topic is off limits. From comedy to true crime, beauty to sports, and everything in between, we say what others won't. Stream it live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. only on YouTube and Facebook. It's bold. It's real. It's Taboo Talk. Follow now and turn your midweek into a mind-blowing mix of laughs, facts, and fire conversation. Taboo Talk is sponsored by Straight Vibes and distributed by Brighton's Guyana.